I think recruitment agencies need to be more accountable for the questions that they are asking in that recruitment process. And I would be asking growth mindset-led questions, finding out how hungry are they, how do they respond to curveballs, how open to are they at learning new stuff. There's not enough questions like that. But unfortunately, when we recruit just people who are really skilled or very really skilled, it could well be that comes with a big fat ego.
Anna Mosley, welcome to the Purpose-Led Leadership Podcast. Delighted to have you on the show. We've connected through a mutual connection. Tell the audience what you actually do.
I am a high-performance coach and an international motivational speaker. I've got a business called 80 Growth Academy, and we get leaders and teams mentally fit, adopting growth mindset to drive high-performance culture in businesses, specialising in the recruitment sector.
Well, that's a good thing I want to delve into. Mentally fit, what does that actually mean? So
mental fitness for me, well, firstly, it's a term that implies it's something you've got to work on daily, which is why I love the words mental fitness. If someone's mentally fit, then they have clarity of thought. If you've got clarity of thought, it means that you are able to be in the now. We are only in our power when we are in the now. Wouldn't you agree? But don't most people spend their time with thoughts about the past, worried about what went wrong, pissed off with someone, or worried about the future, anticipatory anxiety? It's very hard to be present. So mental fitness is a reflection of being present and being able to choose your response to whatever is going on around you. Now that takes skill. There's quite a lot involved.
I think the word response is important there because, and I've been guilty of this as well. So, not as much nowadays, but reacting to stuff. And I think I've done lots of psychology and work on myself. I've still got lots to do, but that ability and that skill set to breathe and pause is a skill in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to create what I call an opportunity gap. Really simply for me, that is a deep breath. But creating a gap between your first potentially unhelpful thought, which could be angry, anxious, and then realising that actually a thought isn't a fact. Can I view this situation through a more helpful lens? And it's that self-regulation that is a really important starting point.
There's something I'm reading at the moment. I think I saw you talk about this on a different podcast where you're better off almost confronting these so-called negative feelings like shame and guilt and anger. And what I've done is write those down and then look at the actual opposite of that. And how can I flip that from not a negative to a positive? But what sort of techniques have you got around that kind of, because we all get negative thoughts, don't we?
Of course we do. And us humans have a negativity bias. We're more likely to worry. We're more likely to be fearful. I think it was Myers-Briggs that I think it's 64% or was it 68% of people are more likely to be negatively focused. We go to bed worrying about what we did wrong, right? Rather than what we did right. I like, when it comes to thought management, I like to talk about the importance of neutralizing your thoughts. We don't want to talk about unicorns and fairies here, right? I'm not looking for everyone to have positive thoughts all the time. That's totally unrealistic. People have probably heard of toxic positivity.
Of course.
But what we got to get good at is owning our second thought. Our second thought, Chris, because the first one might be unhelpful, but knowing you've got the choice to reframe.
Do you think that negative thoughts will always be there? It's just how you actually manage or how you manage them?
I do agree they'll always be there, but I think you can impact the ratio of helpful to unhelpful thoughts, definitely. And I find the deeper our foundations are, if we think about our foundations representing our beliefs, like the beliefs we have about ourselves and about life, the more helpful our beliefs are, the deeper our foundations, the more helpful that ratio is.
I think that's right, because the education system doesn't help us, does it? We talk about algebra and longshore drift and God knows what else. Well, I think we should be taught about emotional intelligence and all this kind of.
So do I.
Emotional regulation.
Yeah, I remember we had a subject called general studies at school back in the day when I was doing GCSEs, which seemed quite forward thinking at the time. But absolutely, kids need to be equipped with how do they create high self-esteem from within? Yeah. How do they manage their thinking? How do they start the day right?
I want to delve a bit deeper into that, but why don't we go backwards a little bit, if you don't mind? And I ask everyone this on my show. Paint us a picture of your journey since school. Include kind of, any kind of adversity, because I'm quite keen to understand. I think the best coaches in this world are the ones that have been through what they're teaching their coachees to get through, as in you've had some lived experience as well.
Yeah,
So
of course.
give us a bit of an overview.
Well, going straight back to school, I mean, firstly, I've been really privileged to have a really lovely family upbringing, which I'm incredibly grateful for.
Yeah.
In terms of school, what I would say is I was always a massive people pleaser. I wasn't the person you're looking at right now. I found it really hard to say no to anyone. I was very gullible. I was sporty, so I did manage to have quite a lot of friends, but there were no big issues at school other than me recognising that I was way too much of a giver, and wasn't confident in my own skin. But I was also always a high achiever. I have a mum who was a headmistress. So I was, not because of her, but I was brought up in society, I suppose, as well, to be chasing like the A stars and the marks and being the best. And I felt that pressure from a very young age. And arguably I put that pressure on myself to an extent. But this chase to be the best transferred into what I would call perfectionism. And the perfectionism really did get very out of control throughout my career. So I was head girl at school. I've captained a lot of sports teams. I was a real high achiever. And then I ended up getting on the L'Oreal grad scheme later on in life, which was very competitive. And it was chase. I'm good enough because I've done that. I'll only be good enough if I do the next thing. Chase.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of this lens through which I was viewing life, which I was always looking at what wasn't good enough, where I should be better, comparing myself to others. I wasn't very authentic at all, to be honest, Chris. As I say, people pleasing, lack of boundaries, and just chasing all the time. And unfortunately, that took a really dangerous turn when I was in, I had some quite big roles at L'Oreal and beyond L'Oreal. But I remember after my second child, this quest to be the best mum in the world and the skinniest and the best wife and an incredible global leader, I was working full time at the time, was just such a heavy weight. And the inner voice just got brutal. It got really dark.
Yeah.
And after months of panic attacks and crying, opening the door to strangers, really strange behaviour that I had never seen before, I recognised that I was 10 out of 10 on what I call the stressometer. I was out of control. I could never be present. I remember the mum guilt of just not wanting to tend to the cries and not being able to be a good wife for my husband. And it all came to a head driving to work one day when I had a full-on breakdown. My body just completely gave up on me. I was trying to achieve 110%. Yeah. And it's not possible, Chris.
No.
And I got to breaking point at that point. Literally, my body wouldn't move. I sat in a car, not knowing what the hell to do. And that was the eureka moment of, shit, this isn't the life I want. I've got to get out of
Sometimes
here.
we have to be stripped right back like that, don't we, to realise what the hell we're doing.
We do. It was extreme burnout. But I think for anyone listening who can relate to my story of, you know, thankfully having quite a good upbringing and doing well in life, there's still such danger trying to chase to be the best.
Yeah.
And it really can have a detrimental outcome. I think perfectionism is one of the most dangerous thinking styles out there, that constant comparison.
Where does all this stem from then? You talked about, you know, not being able to say no, being very gullible, being a giver, people pleaser, nothing's ever good enough. I mean, from a young age, right? So where do you think that's hereditary, or do you think it's indoctrinated from other sources? Was it, how do you, because I mean, I think it's a very, very common thing, isn't it?
It is. And I don't want to go too deep with this, but I do think it's partly to do with the Catholic Church.
Oh, go on.
A little bit. So I was brought up a Catholic. It was always about helping everyone else and saying yes and being a good girl. I talk a lot about, I used to have good girl syndrome. I've labelled it good girl syndrome, which was always have to be good, clean nose.
Right.
And I dressed like a boy as a kid. I rolled in the mud. I played football.
Yeah.
But I felt this pressure that I really should be in a dress and looking clean and saying the right thing.
Okay.
So there was a bit of that going on. And that good girl syndrome resonates with a lot of women that I work with, because I think it's a societal thing that women should be on their best behaviour all the time. And I think that sat behind my expectation of myself. I always had to deliver, to prove I was good enough, to please others.
Yeah.
But you can't go through life like that, Chris.
No.
It's inauthentic.
When you say a eureka moment, I don't believe for 1 minute that you kind of went from sort of one personality to another. Was it a transition, or that was a turning point? So tell us about kind of like that.
Yeah, so the eureka moment was in the car, my body wouldn't move, and there was literally a voice that went, this is not the mum or the leader or the life you want to have or be. It is time to do something about it. And I knew at that point I needed to step out of the corporate world.
Yeah.
And I got myself an incredible coach, and I went through a process of what I would describe as deepening my foundations, building my self-esteem. I'd never had high self-esteem before. The world thought I had it because I seemed confident, but I wasn't really confident at all.
I love your lens on you being inauthentic, because people think that being a people pleaser, being a nice guy and doing all these things is authentic and genuine, but actually there's evidence to say that it isn't, right?
No, because it can clash with your values, right? I didn't bloody know anything about values until I became a coach, but I now know that was a massive value clash. And I've coached thousands of people, and there were a lot of people who recognize when I'm coaching them, they learn for themselves that, shit, I've been living my life through someone else's lens or by someone else's values, usually parents.
Yeah.
Or maybe sometimes it's societal, it's religion based.
Yeah.
And I really think we need to know who we are, what we want out of life, and we need alignment with how we're actually living our life. So there's an audit I do with my clients to see where the gaps are.
Okay, let's hear about that. Give us a little bit of an insight into that.
So one of the sessions that I offer is called a life audit. And what I'll do is I'll draw out the life values, and sometimes I do career values as well, of a client, as in how they truly want to live their life. What are the things most important to them? We rank them in order. I really go deep with why. Why does that matter? And then what I do is get them to rank, to give a mark in terms of a percentage of fulfillment against each of those values.
Purpose, yeah, absolutely. It's where they are now and how important they think it is, and then, well, if it's 10 out of 10 important, why are you spending half an hour a week doing that
exactly
kind of thing?
But you know what shows up all the time, Chris, is that those percentage levels of fulfillment next to, let's say, their top 5 values can be 5%, 30%, and it is like an effing wake-up call. The most beautiful wake-up call, because they're like, shit, it's the misalignment that has been causing that feeling in my gut that something ain't right.
Because I do a similar thing, like there's 6 things in mind: business, personal development, relationships. I won't tell them all, but where I went wrong personally was I built a massive multi-million-pound business, but I put 99% of all my effort into that business, and then I kind of lost everything because I thought achieving these business goals would sort my life out. But actually, the business is one element of your life. It's about being, the CEO of your life. Being, it's about life.
CEO of your life.
Yeah,
exactly. There's something missing. It's not just about the money or the job title. I'll tell you what else is really interesting, Chris. When I've coached some like senior execs from big businesses who've gone into retirement and then really struggled. And that is because all their self-esteem had come from the job title and the money and the respect, and they'd never really processed the person who they really were. Like I teach people to reflect on their qualitative traits, like I am kind, I am progressive, I'm a great learner, rather than I am rich or actually, I am this title.
That is all you need. I think that one of the most important things you can learn is self-love. Not in an egotistical way, obviously.
No, of course. An inner sense of power.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it. It's an inner sense of power that enables you to live that authentic life in true alignment. It's a beautiful thing. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, when we're on our deathbed, does it really matter how much money we earn or the job title we had? It matters that we were a good mum or dad or whatever, right? So
kind of going through all the anxiety and the pressure that you had as a youngster, and then now being, I can feel your energy. It's amazing. It's infectious. You don't become, a great speaker and, overnight. You say it must be a journey, but
it was a journey.
What sort of trials and tribulations have you had along that way? Because things like public speaking, for example, it's not easy. I'm sure the first time you did it, you were shitting yourself and all this kind of stuff. I don't know.
Well, weirdly, Chris, I'm one of the very few people that always love speaking.
Oh, right.
So that, I never struggled with that. I think in terms of my speaker journey, because I speak globally now, as you know, the thing to share there is, which I think might really help people listening in, is when you've got a strength, because it was a strength, even like being head girl, I did a lot of theatre when I was younger. I'd always was quite confident speaking in front of people. But the learning for others listening in here is when you've got a strength, go and make it better. Because I remember signing up for quite an expensive speaker course, which I'm still invested in. And I remember some people going, why have you gone and spent all that money? You're already a good speaker. I said, because I've got a growth mindset.
Absolutely.
And there's always more to learn. And now that I've learned, you know, the psychology behind speaking, anchoring, where to stand, body language, how to appeal to all the different social styles in the audience, stuff that I didn't know before, Chris, it's elevated me to another level.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about unleashing the extraordinary. That's the strap line for 80.
Okay.
And for me, the ordinary with speaking was pretty decent, but
Yeah.
now I'm unleashing the extraordinary.
Yeah. Go back to the 80% rule, please, because I think people want to be this. Most people want to be like, they believe you've got to give 100% all the time. I don't think that's necessarily achievable. Is it?
I think it's foolish. Is
Okay.
what I think it is.
Yeah.
I think anyone will know that if you've given 100% over a prolonged period of time, it will lead to burnout and physical symptoms. I'm really passionate about teaching people that you can achieve 100% performance if you apply the 80% rule 99% of the time. Of course, there are times when we have to step up to 100, right?
Yeah.
If I'm on a stage, I'm at 100.
Yeah, of course. Have to be.
If my kids are off sick and I'm juggling work, I'm at 100. But I'm so mindful of protecting my, let's call it energy management, Chris. That's what it is. I've got to recharge my battery. And also, I want to be pouring into all these different cups of life.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it's not just work.
No,
it's family.
Sometimes the best thing you can do for your business is step away from it and do something non-business related. Like, for instance, I've got a PT now 4 times a week, and it's 12 till 1. It's an immovable meeting.
Non-negotiable.
Literally, and that's transformed my ability to be more present in business. Is that kind of approach, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're more productive in business, right? Because you are putting your own oxygen mask on first. And I know you're so passionate about purpose. It is about also having a passion or a hobby. The number of clients I've said, what's your hobby? And they're like, I don't think I have one.
No, it's really important.
But we've got to do more of what makes us happy.
Yeah. So you started to work for some big brands like L'Oreal. Talk us through from there on forwards, that's okay.
Yeah. So I've been coaching and training for probably I've lost track of time now, six or 7 years now.
Right.
80 Growth Academy launched January last year, so it's about 1 year and 3 months old. But when I started training and going into businesses, what I was passionate about is taking this mental fitness for high performance message into the corporates.
Yeah.
So I've worked with some great brands: LinkedIn, L'Oreal, Boots, Sackler, GHD.
How did you get into those big brands? Because that's not an easy thing in itself to do that. Was it just your passion, or was it your ability to network and sales, or was it how did you break into these?
Well, firstly, I believe that relationship capital is way more important than financial capital. So I've got great connections, people who knew me as a high performer at L'Oreal or knew me from previous careers. You've got to use your network, right? But the other thing is that what we're doing with 80 Growth Academy is so refreshing.
Yeah.
It is really disrupting the training industry, and these big brands are like, oh, this is different. Anna is very real. I like that it's complicated topics made simple.
Yeah.
It's a refreshing approach. It's quite an edgy brand, whereas training in the past, Chris, can be so bloody boring.
Yeah, I think with the advent of more social media and things like, we'll talk about vulnerability, but even 5-10 years ago, things like mental health and vulnerability, they were kind of shunned or laughed at, wouldn't they? But I think now it's like it's a currency in itself, isn't it, to have vulnerability?
Well, these big companies are really interested in well-being now, aren't they? They have been for a while.
Yeah.
They're also interested in being high performing, and what I'm doing is bridging the gap between the two.
Right.
So we're getting leaders and teams mentally fit so that company can get better commercial results. So that's the beautiful synergy.
I bet you get a lot of there's different types of leaders, isn't there? There's the ones that they that think they know it all. There's ones that well, talk us through what you found in terms of, and I think that the best leaders are the ones that want to learn, basically, in my opinion. But
I couldn't agree more with you. Let's talk about what I see more often than not, though, unfortunately. Firstly, most leaders have never been taught how to lead. Most people, and that's not their fault. And companies need to take more accountability for this. They've often normally been put into that role because they were good at their job. So that doesn't mean they'll be a good leader.
Yeah.
And for that reason, unfortunately, what I see more often than not is poor leadership. In fact, I see a load of managers that don't know how to lead.
Yes. And there's a difference between managing and leading, obviously, isn't there?
Yeah, and many people don't realise the difference. So I would describe managing as being transactional. You're in the weeds. It's the nuts and bolts of it's very important.
Yeah.
You've got to wear that hat.
Of course.
But leading is about the bigger picture stuff. It's visionary. It's about developing your team, unlocking the leaders of the future. It requires more headspace. It requires the headspace to have a growth mindset, to think bigger and beyond management.
Yeah, I think management's possibly more kind of, you can look at sort of data and factual stuff, where I think maybe
task driven.
Yeah, and I think maybe leadership has things like, they call it soft skills, but things like empathy, compassion, vulnerability,
Definitely.
and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, definitely. But what I see more than often, shall I tell you the 6? I've got to remember them now. There's 6 bad bosses that I've identified, right? And they don't take much explaining. So one of them is the dominator. That is the boss that really wants the power, and the team are scared. And that fear means that they don't innovate. There's no ideas. They don't enjoy what they're doing. There's a high turnover rate. The next one is the perfectionist leader. And I used to be the perfectionist leader. So I very much identify what I used to be. The perfectionist leader is obsessed over the end result, highly critical of their team. They don't notice the small wins or the progress, and that's really demoralising.
People to be as good or better than them, no matter what. And if
it's a lot of pressure, and they don't have a very balanced life themselves. So they model this unhelpful work-life balance often. Another one is the thief. The thief is the thief is the boss that nicks the credit for what you do. I've had one of them before.
I've been a dominator and a perfectionist myself in the past, but I don't think I've been a thief, but I probably have been guilty in the past. Who knows? But yeah.
The other one I've been in the past is the people pleaser, which won't surprise you. Even though I was a pretty good leader, I wanted everyone to be my friend. Right. That actually isn't cool. No. And so at times I didn't toe the company line, or I didn't see things from a strategic point of view because I'd rather keep my team happy.
Yeah, I think a good leader, a good manager, a good coach often knows what hat to wear when and to whom. So some people want a bit of a cuddle, some people want a direct kind of kick up the arse. But if I was to summarise it, I think that you need to tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. What do you think?
Absolutely, you've got to tell people what they need to hear. I think that is the coach hat that a leader should wear at times. Yeah, guiding them to that bigger picture. And then we've got the I'm too gooder.
I love this.
It's fun, isn't it? The I'm too gooder is the boss that sits in his ivory or their ivory tower, and they just look down at the minions, and there's no rapport building. They don't go to the warehouse to see the team.
They're not asking people to do what they're prepared to themselves kind of situation. They're above all that, right?
Absolutely.
Oh God, okay.
And then we've got the stuck in the rut leader, and that's the fixed mindset, my way or the highway. They don't think bigger. Yeah. And so they stifle growth because no one wants to give an idea to someone who's so fixed. So
what I found out on my journey is, I do operations, sales, and we can do all that kind of stuff. But it's these often it's the ego, it's the personality, it's the makeup of. So how do you break down, a dominator or perfectionist, they're set in their ways? How do you, what sort of techniques do you use?
Well, the first thing to do is share what these avatars, if you like, are, because we can all relate to one of them, right? No one's perfect. I would like to say I'm perfectly imperfect. I can relate to what I used to be. So it's educating on what these avatars are to raise awareness, because self-awareness is critical in leadership. 100%. It's like, what are my blockers as a leader? And do you know what? It goes way beyond leadership. What are my blockers and limiting beliefs as a person? I like to see the leader as a whole person. It's about their whole life. Yeah. Leadership's just one aspect of it, as we've said. Yeah. So we've got to get people, firstly, wanting to make the change, step one. Yeah, of course. Secondly, then we've got to deepen the foundations so that they have the headspace to be able to be more self-aware. And then we've got to get them self-managing or self-leading more effectively, like catching themselves out when they're being a perfectionist. And then you want them trained, so they're thinking, I've just realised I focused on what wasn't good enough with my team. I'm just going to go back and say, well done for what did go well. Yeah. So self-awareness is a huge part of the puzzle. Absolutely. But let's not forget the mental fitness piece that needs to come first. But that's an ongoing thing, isn't it, mental fitness? That's not a quick fix, right? It's not a quick fix, no. But we can, I do teach leaders early doors how to build high self-esteem and high self-belief, which helps stabilise that mindset. Because if you think of it like a building, when people have got, or when a leader's got shallow foundations and they've got low self-esteem, which many do have, and they've got unhelpful beliefs, for example, I can't deal with conflict in my team. I can't manage upwards very well. I always have to say yes to the boss. When they've got those shallow foundations, it means that their building, which is their mindset, is rocky. Yeah. And when we've got that rocky building, it represents unhelpful thinking, which could turn into the perfectionist leader or the leader that overthinks or that catastrophizes. We need these leaders to stabilize the building, so to speak. before they even think about leading the rest of the team.
So specifically then, is it teaching them to talk to themselves in a better way as an example?
Yeah, that's one aspect. I think once you've built higher self-esteem, and I teach people how to do that by noticing that, it sounds so basic, Chris, but noticing what they have done well. Yeah. Having a record, I call it the evidence list of things that they have done well and what it says about them, because we really want to be linking an affirmation to evidence of things that we've done. So I take them, there's much more to it than that, but I take them through that process of building their self-esteem. And a byproduct of that is a more helpful inner voice.
Yes.
But then I want them to take control of starting their day with the right inner voice.
Yeah.
You know, that cheerleading, you really can control the voice in your head.
I think half the battle is, though, it's almost befriending them, because a leader can be, a leadership role can be one of the loneliest roles, and often they're so entrenched in the performance of the business and the team. And as you say, it's understanding what makes them tick outside of work. Do they have a hobby? What are their relationships like? What's their diet like? Are they exercising? And having a conversation around kind of like that kind of stuff can be just as valuable as improving their communication in the business as well.
Definitely, and it all relates to their productivity and their focus. They're happy outside of work, they'll be more focused. Yeah. I talk a lot about, you may have heard me talk about this stressometer, this idea that like a revometer in a car that goes from like 0 to 10, we want leaders being able to self-lead, bringing that dial down. You know, exercise helps with that, eating well helps with that, sleeping enough helps with that. Because if they can keep self-leading and bringing their dial down, that keeps them in what I call the high performance zone.
I love that. I think that comes down to experience, because I've had burnout 3 times. I'm never going to get it again. Right now,
you're not going to allow it.
I'm not going to allow it. Absolutely, because right now I'm running around like a blue ass fly, but I'm counterbalancing that, insisting that my diet's good and I'm working out. And I'm only working a bit harder because I need to, but I know for a fact if I don't keep up my workout and my thing, I'm going to fall down. So it's kind of like, it's knowing that sometimes you have to move and shake a little bit, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, you do. But you do need non-negotiables in your life, and you've got that. What did you say? 1 till 2 or 12 till 1?
12 till 1, 4 times a week. That's I know.
How powerful is that, though? Yeah. We should all be time blocking, not just for strategizing or having your one-to-ones. You should be time blocking for your bloody.
It's in your diary, absolutely. That's
date nights. Yeah. If you've got a partner.
Yeah.
Exercise like you're doing. We should be time blocking for our life.
Yeah.
And seeing ourselves as a whole person.
Because I think I've been guilty of this as well. I think a lot of people in this world, right, they're purposeless. I don't mean that in a
derogatory way. I know
derogatory
what you mean.
way. That's it. In terms of like, we go to work, we get our money, we spend it. We go to work. It kind of can be quite robotic if we're not sort of have a wider lens and self-awareness of, right, why am I actually doing what I'm doing, apart from to get some feedback from my colleagues or whatever, you know.
And this is why I flipping love doing this life audit I mentioned earlier, where I get people to stop the crazy rat race of life and reflect on what is my life like right now, because we're all in autopilot. I use that word a lot.
Exactly. Yeah,
you might have heard me say that 90% of our thoughts are the same as yesterday. We're all just on repeat, driven, you know, your thoughts are driven by the programs running in your brain that have been going on since early 20s.
Like your mind is so cluttered. You've got to kind of like declutter your mind, create some space in your mind, and enjoy the times where, you know, because I think you're like me, is like, we're better now, but I used to have to do something, you know, even sitting on the sofa, I didn't feel I was productive by just sitting down, and actually just stopping, the ability to do nothing, pause, not even listen to music, and just actually stop. Now. It's things like that is a hard skill in this day and age. It's a hard skill. Yeah,
because we are so impulsive, aren't we? And like, I have an urge to check my phone all the time, and I hate that. But that's why I say you're only in your power when you're in the now, and you have to be disciplined. Not only do you have to be mentally fit, but you have to be disciplined to do that. And that's when you will do your best work, be the most creative you can be, tailor your approach or whatever it might be. It's hard to do it. Even as a coach, I find it hard to do it.
You can get the best ideas when you're stepping away from things, and you know, but it's hard. It's, you know, leaders just feel as if they need to be on 24/7. That can be. I say slow down to speed up. I say.
Yeah, but it is foolish not to. It's foolish to have your foot to the pedal. Yeah. But they think that they're doing the right thing, because I've been there. I thought I was doing exactly what I should be, overworking, showing up all the time. Yeah. But I was never showing up for myself, let alone my family.
So you've done some work with lots of different recruitment businesses, right?
Yeah, so I've really honed into the recruitment sector specifically, although I work across all industries.
Yeah.
I flipping love recruitment because it is a vibrant space. I love the challenges that agencies face. I love the curveball because what I'm teaching is leaders and teams to be able to respond powerfully to change, curveballs, adversity. I mean, there's a lot of rejection.
There we go. It's not taking it personally and all that kind of stuff, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, there's the rejection aspect, but there's also like the market's ever changing. So I love to get teams firing on all cylinders from a performance point of view, but I like to get them so resilient that they become ultra agile. And I think in this market, recruitment agencies need to be incredibly agile, especially with the fast-paced tech changes and everything else we've got going on.
I think you're so right. I think process, market mapping, understanding of the recruitment is really, really important. But I think in recruitment, because we're dealing with people and their ability to just literally change their mind on a whim, and we're not selling a book, a watch, a car, a pen, it's a person. You know, there's so many different things that can happen. It's coaching and training and instilling a sense of resilience, isn't it?
And calm under pressure.
Yeah.
Plus, we want that recruitment team comfortable being uncomfortable. We want them stepping out their comfort zones to try something new. So there's a phrase I love, which is, if it ain't broke, break it. Now that goes hand in hand with my strapline, Unleash the Extraordinary. I want to get recruitment teams in the right headspace. They're mentally fit, their dial is down, their stressometer is down, and therefore they're thinking, how can I make this better? How could I communicate more effectively to close that deal? How could I adjust how I approach, I don't know, the marketing team or whatever it might be?
But also, no doesn't always mean no. You can tend to think, you can, having the ability to ask the extra question, and actually sometimes a human being will say something to you and you'll interpret it one way, but without being curious and asking questions and going back. It's just having that confidence to challenge, I think, as well.
Well, my favourite word you've just said there is curious. Like, curiosity is an amazing thing. And I know we're probably going to speak about vulnerability, but you've got to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be the one who asks the questions. Yeah. It really is a strength.
Talk to me about your own vulnerability then. What examples have you...
Well, I can remember many examples when I wasn't. I used to hate stepping out of my comfort zone, and unless I was the best, I wouldn't try it. Now I have heart on my sleeve all the time, as you can probably tell. You're similar, and I love that. And guess what? You connect with people to a whole nother level when you're real.
Do you get nervous and anxiety and that kind of stuff, or not now?
I very rarely experience anxiety unless it's something to do with my child health-wise. Which has happened. And then I have to really, I know how to manage it though. Yeah. Thank goodness I've got a good toolkit in my back pocket. But in general, I don't create anxiety. I have a firm belief that anxiety does not happen to us. It's something we create. And therefore, because I know how to keep my self-esteem high, it seems impossible for me to create it to a bad degree. I'd love to delve
into that. So people who suffer from anxiety and they hear you say you're self-creating that.
Yeah, so really that's a difficult one. I would only really dig into that with a coaching client who I have educated on.
I think it's interesting. I think you're right, but I think let's explain this. How do you create your own anxiety?
Yeah, well, I'm going to answer that question, but I just want to firstly say that when we feel powerful, we can't create stress and anxiety. We can't. It's impossible. We can't create crappy thoughts when we feel powerful, right? When we feel powerless, that is when we create stress and anxiety. I like to make things simple, and it's fact. That's the case. So therefore, to answer your question, is it not incredibly powerless to think that anxiety is happening to me? Because it gives all the power to this thing.
Right.
I'm in my power if I recognise that it's the lens through which I'm viewing the curveball, the divorce, whatever it might be. Yeah. It's the lens that's creating the thoughts. It's the thoughts that's creating the anxious feeling in my tummy that's making me shake or whatever. But we've got to track back to the lens. So I teach people how they can remain in their power in the now by managing that lens. And if you manage it effectively, and yes, it takes some training, but not much, you will reduce your anxiety. So
when you say a lens, it's you're feeling anxious, but doesn't mean you are anxious. Is it that kind of thing?
Well, your thoughts aren't fact, but the feelings of anxiety are absolutely real. You know, the physical symptoms real.
Yeah, of course.
But Chris, if I was to imagine myself having a headache now over and over, I would have a headache. I shit you not. Yeah, so we can mitigate So if I
get
am
it.
feeling on edge because of the girls or whatever, something's wrong with them. I've had some real health issues with one of them, which has been
sorry to
hard
hear
to.
that.
It's okay now, actually,
Yeah.
but that was tough. And I know that I can, if I view it through a helpful lens, if I control the controllables is a
Yeah.
great phrase. Usually when people are creating anxiety, it is anticipatory anxiety. They are worrying about
Right.
something that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's a great phrase that I said to someone just earlier today, which is anxiety is like paying interest on something that hasn't even effing happened yet.
Yeah.
And I'm so all over energy management. Why the frig
Yeah.
would I waste my energy on that?
Yeah. No, I get that. I think there's some studies on it, like 85% of what you think is going to happen doesn't happen anyway, kind of,
I know, wasted energy, right?
Yeah.
So it's really helping people. Obviously, I can't do that in one podcast, but it's helping people understand that we've got to take the power back. We've got to stay in the driving seat. We've got to learn to manage that lens.
And I think it starts with things, not simple, but, learning to breathe and pause and kind of.
That's really helpful, yeah.
That's helpful, isn't it?
There's lots of great techniques, but I think there's no better technique than building your self-esteem, because that inner sense of power, as I like to call it, just means that it's so much harder for your brain to throw up unhelpful thinking.
Yeah.
You're more likely to feel calm.
Let's talk about fear as well. So I looked at your stuff, and you do people with addictions and phobias and
In the past I have,
all that kind of stuff. And I did my first speaking gig at the Expo.
No, I remember that.
which
Yeah, I
I'm
saw you.
very pleased about.
Well done you.
I got some more stuff coming, and I've still got a bit of fear around it. So what advice would you give me or anyone around that sort of public speaking thing? That is one of the most common things, isn't it, basically? But
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of techniques that that help when it comes to public speaking. I guess the first thing to acknowledge is that, honestly, everyone in that audience, they're rooting for you is the first thing, right? So you've got to have the right lens on. I'm going back to the lens again.
Yeah.
You've got to go on that stage with the right lens.
do you think that the more I keep bloody saying I'm scared, I'm fearful of public speaking, the more
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
I become that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to stop labeling ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm someone who gets nervous when I go on a stage. Well, your body's just going to respond to that. Why aren't we visualizing how we want our body to be? So what I would suggest, one thing as a technique, is visualize yourself having already done the talk, and you're feeling powerful. You're feeling really chuffed, because you can trick your body in the present moment to thinking it's done something that it hasn't done yet.
Yeah, of course.
So that's one technique.
Yeah,
Another
love
great
that.
little one for you is it depends on your personality type, but what you watch or listen to before you go on that stage really matters.
Yeah.
So whether for someone that is something really uplifting and motivating. So because I'm such a high energy person, surprisingly, what I watch before I go on stage is videos of my kids.
Oh, okay.
It chills me out.
Yeah, because you've got the energy, and you've got you're pumped enough already.
Because what I've learned is you want your talk to be like a song. And although everyone does like my energy in general, I don't just want to be up here like that.
Yeah.
I want to start chilling, and I want to get them excited.
A lot of it is like, although you got to project your voice to an extent, but isn't it like literally trying to have a conversation, not talking at your audience, it's talking to them, would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
It's being you. I think you'd be really brilliant at that anyway. But a lot of people change who they are. I'm like, don't just be real.
Yeah.
Be yourself. I'm quite colloquial and relaxed in my style, which, well, that's just who I am. It would be stupid to put on an act, but I also think body language plays a big part, Chris. Like how you stand before you even get on that stage. Like power posing really helps.
Yeah. So we're talking about purpose, and it's the Purpose of the Leadership podcast. How would you describe what is your purpose?
My purpose is to unlock the potential of as many people as I possibly can. I mean, I've got my sights on unleashing the potential of millions of people around the world, whilst still unleashing my own.
Yes.
So unleashing the potential of others while still unleashing my own, and modelling to my girls, because I've got a 10 and an 8-year-old, Millie and Daisy,
of course,
that absolutely you can have it all.
Yeah.
That's my purpose.
So you'll continually want to evolve and learn and grow yourself.
I will always have a growth mindset. And I think it's a really wonderful trait in people. I mean, I was drawn to you because I could tell you did. My mentor, Adam Stott, who we've had a loose conversation.
He looks great,
He has got such a growth mindset and he is so successful. And I admire that.
Yeah.
I actually choose not to spend too much time with fixed mindset people.
No, but that's a massive point, isn't it? Who you surround yourself with. I know everyone says it, but it's so true.
Yeah, you are the average of the 5.
I've moved negative people out of my life, and
That's awesome.
I think saying no to someone else, saying yes to you, it's that all builds confidence and mental fitness, doesn't it? All this kind of stuff.
But it's a sense of control, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I said earlier about you? It's about feeling powerful. The more powerful you feel, the more helpful your headspace.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful thing to say, I choose not to hang out with them people anymore. I choose to time block the PT 4 times a week. I'm choosing that. This is all to do with feeling in the driving seat. And at the end of the day in life, as a human, you want to be feeling in control.
What's your Achilles heel, would you say? What sort of things do you think hold you back or cause you issues still, even though you've done lots of work on yourself and you're an amazing coach? You're still a human being.
There's always stuff to be working on. I laugh at mine because my strengths are absolutely my weakness. Organisation.
Oh, really?
I
that
can be
surprises
quite.
Me. Okay.
Well, in terms of what I'm delivering to business, it's top notch. But behind the scenes, I'm quite messy.
Yeah.
I get really excited about new things. So for me, completing tasks, I've learned how to self-manage. You know, one of my major messages is self-leadership, but I've learned that I have to time block time to complete a task. Otherwise, I know I will be going to like 10 different things.
Oh, I do this all the time. If you give someone 2 days to do something, or you give them 2 hours to do it, they'll do it in whatever time you give them to do it.
Yeah. So it's the shambolic preference that I have, which actually I annoy myself with it.
Well,
that is my downfall.
You want to take on as much as you can and just, is that what it is? Or
well, I like the bigger picture stuff, Chris. I like being in a room of people. I love people. I don't like boring, mundane tasks. But if you're going to run a successful business, you have to have the discipline to do the shit you don't want to do. And that's what I find hard.
Can you give me some examples of when you've had to kind of be quite fierce with someone or the leader and kind of like give them him or her or them some home truths or that kind of stuff? You know, some examples around, you know, turning someone around maybe.
Yeah, and I won't name any names because obviously it's confidential, but there was someone in quite a big business recently who is an absolute high achiever. So how many did they have in their team? I think they had 6. This is a very like C-suite level. 6 people in their team. One of the most intelligent. They worked. I won't say what. In fact, I won't say the sector because I think the person might guess who I'm talking about. But they're incredibly intelligent. They're known for their intelligence, and they're a red personality, meaning they're really bothered about results. So they're very fast-paced, very intellectual. Now, when we did like 360-degree feedback of their team, what came back was, this bloke is amazing at what he's achieving in terms of the results for the business. He's driven it forward. However, he has zero empathy.
Right.
We feel like he doesn't listen to us. We feel he talks over us. We feel that it's his way or the highway. And there was all this fallout. Like he wasn't appreciating the journey.
Right.
And it was an incredible turnaround coaching him. I wondered how coachable he would be at the beginning.
Yeah.
And long story short, by the end of this, I think it was probably 3 months of coaching and us having meetings with his team for him to present what his commitments were off the back of what he'd learned.
Wow.
He has become so much more of an empathetic leader. He has shared, with a real growth mindset, shared what he's recognised as his drawbacks have been.
But he's much more approachable as well.
And he's much more approachable. He's committed to what he's going to change. And he's involving them more in conversation. He's not talking over them. He's giving them space. And that's been the company was shocked at the transformation.
That's so important because I think some people get the perception that a leader is someone who needs to be stoic, dictatorial, ruthless, and
no, that's the dominator, isn't it? And we don't want. No, but this is why leadership is the hardest role in any company, Chris, because you've got to wear so many hats, and it is nurture, not just nature. I know. I would say I was born quite a natural leader, but my God, I've learned what I've know today. I would be such a better leader now off the back of what I've learned than when I was back at L'Oreal or these other companies. Yeah,
give me some examples of your own challenges as a leader yourself. I'm sure you've had some, maybe some mistakes.
Back in the day. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the people pleasing thing was a big one. So I remember defending my team to the hills, and it really clashing with, let's just say the top of the business, and them saying, "Listen, you are not considering the bigger picture and the company needs enough." And I was just so fixated on protecting the team. And now I think, wow, that isn't leadership. And why did it matter so much that everyone had to love me? Well, I know why, because I had low self-esteem and all I did was look for validation all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore. So that's one thing. And another thing was expecting everyone to live up to my ridiculously high standards of that ex-perfectionist, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I did think on a lot of occasions that my way was right, and now I appreciate that these different personality types that are out there have so much to bring to the table. Like someone who is ordered and organised really compliments me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not all just about the fun people.
Yeah, I think as well. What I've learned is my ability not to judge too much too quickly, and it's very difficult not to judge people, isn't it? And
we can't help it. We do it as humans, but yeah, we got to stop ourselves. Again, that's about creating the gap between a first thought of not sure about him or her, and thinking actually, give him a chance.
Yeah. So what else do you look for then? Because recruitment is about my business is called based mindset, behaviors, attitudes, skills, and experience. So I think companies, they hire on skills and experience, and they get rid of people on behaviors and attitude, and they don't qualify that sort of piece.
This is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think we should be recruiting just based on skills at all. I think the most important thing is attitude and mindset.
Yeah.
And I think recruitment agencies need to be more accountable for the questions that they are asking in that recruitment process.
100%.
And I would be asking growth mindset led questions, finding out how hungry are they, how do they respond to curveballs, how open to are they at learning new stuff.
Yeah.
There's not enough questions like that. You can teach the skills later, can't you?
Of course, absolutely.
But unfortunately, when we recruit just people who are really skilled or really skilled, it could well be that comes with a big fat ego.
Yeah.
Now, ego is a big fat blocker in terms of progress because, you get people pretending, not wanting to get out of comfort zones because there's shame and blame, and it gets messy. But there's a lot of that in recruitment, isn't there?
Yeah, of course. And then one of your fortes is creating high performance culture, would you say?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
I know you've only got like 10 minutes left. So,
well, in short, you create high performance culture is almost like step 7 of a 7-step process, because to answer it quickly, it starts at the top. Forget having a high performance culture. Well, one, if you've not got the mission and the values covered, which I know you'll be, and purpose of the company, right? That's number one.
Yeah,
next, you've got to get the leaders mentally fit and modeling a growth mindset, because we're not going to have a high performing recruitment team if they are not resilient, and I mean extraordinarily resilient, not like average resilient, and agile. And for me, high performance culture, what does that look like? It is about having greater connection within the team. It is about a model of continuous feedback from leader to staff, and staff back up to leader.
Communication is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's failing forward. That takes vulnerability.
What's that? Failing forward?
So failing forward is trying something new and being brave and trying something new. And then version 1 is better than version none. And then you audit. How did that thing go? What worked? And if it didn't work, you pivot. And you find a new way to the result. And they're the companies that will get to the result quicker. There's too much fear in other companies of, I'm not trying that new thing. If it ain't broke, don't break it. And that's where my phrase, if it ain't broke, break it, comes from. Try the thing.
I always say that if you've done something well, without being too much of a perfectionist, try and think about how you can make it even better, right?
Absolutely.
And that's a growth mindset thing again, isn't it?
That is a growth mindset. And that's unleash the extraordinary again.
Yeah.
Life's too short for average, Chris. And markets are too tough for average. Do we want to have competitive edge and be market leader or not? Because that ain't happening if we're average.
What I like about you is you're very clear. You're kind of like you kind of simplify the complex, and I think that's a skill in itself, isn't it? All these things, anxiety and high performance, and kind of like in this day and age, I think that's really important to kind of cut through the noise. And
yeah, that is something I'm really passionate about doing. It's not. I appreciate you noticing that, because there's too many long words. Research studies matter. I mean, I've got evidence coming out my ears, but in terms of research studies, but I present it in a simple way because I know it sticks.
Yeah.
And when it comes to training in companies, so often it doesn't stick because it is overcomplicated.
And often what they do is they have these great training sessions and there's no follow-up at all.
Exactly.
There's no measurement. You can have the best training session in the world, but if you're not then tracking the performance difference of that, then
accountability is one of 80s values, actually, because that is something I noticed that many companies have missed, that then they have one-hit wonders, if that, in terms of training, and then nothing transpires to a result. I'm passionate about delivering commercial results and cultural results.
Yeah. So why recruitment then? Is it because it's a people business? Because it seems to be a good match for your skill set, but why are you enjoying
It's definitely
it?
a good match for my personality, isn't it? Because it's a fun industry, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like the I quite like the egos that I often find. And I say like as in I know the potential of breaking that down. And once people have got rid of that ego, which is just a defense mechanism, that's the shield. Once I can teach teams to become more vulnerable, so that's the opposite of ego, is being able to be vulnerable, right?
Because you get the architypal, you've never made a placement in your life, I bet. You're not from recruitment.
No, I'm not from recruitment.
I bet you get all that, don't you? Or not? And if you don't laugh through it, but you just cut through it.
You mean if people say, but you've not been in recruitment?
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, people really like that I haven't been in recruitment.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because all that matters is, so it's always good. I mean, this is growth mindset, right? It's great that I've got experience across multiple industries, tech, hair and beauty, you name it, banking. There's a lot of value to be taken from other industries.
Yeah, I agree.
But all that matters is that I can help people break through their fear, their stress and their overwhelm, and the fixed mindset that is very present in recruitment. It's not just in recruitment, it's everywhere, right? But the ego thing's an interesting one.
Yeah. So to summarise then, if you were to sort of summarise some of the best ways for someone to get out of like a negative mindset, fixed mindset. I know we touched on it before, but what are the sort of top 3 or 4 things you'd like to leave the audience with in terms of all the stuff that you do?
Okay, gosh, that's a hard question. I'm gonna try and nail this. Right, ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, firstly, if you ain't changing it, you are choosing it. That's the first thing I want to say to people. If you ain't changing it, you are choosing it.
Yeah.
So let's not moan. Let's not be what I call below the line and blame. Let's take accountability. So this is all about taking action. The second thing I just want to repeat, because I think it's useful, is please remember that something you can choose is the lens through which you're viewing everything.
Yeah.
Whatever that curve, whether it's road rage or a client that's being difficult, you can choose your response. So just stay in the driving seat, create that opportunity gap.
Yeah.
And be on a quest to live a life that is smarter, not harder. Put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
Stop aiming for 100%, and apart from the moments where you actually have to.
Yeah.
And try and live your life by this 80% rule, because I promise you that you will achieve more than you ever thought you could as a result of that clarity.
You seem extremely kind of resilient around when shit hits the fan or whatever happens. It's almost like it's like I think you give me a vibe of kind of like this is happening. Well, no matter what it is, good, bad, or indifferent, it's happening for me, not to me, right? And I think that's what I'm getting.
That is brilliant. I couldn't agree more. Life is not happening to us. We don't want to believe life's happening to us. I am happening to life.
Yeah.
I should have mentioned earlier, it's probably useful for people to hear that I did spend quite a lot of time delivering a specific mental health program called the Thrive program.
Oh, go on, yeah.
And that's why I know so much about all this mental fitness stuff. I've helped thousands overcome, like you said, phobias, addictions, all sorts. Which is why I speak so confidently. And for me, it's a beautiful thing to be able to bring that breadth of experience, having helped so many different types of people, from kids to CEOs, into the recruitment sector and other industries to help drive high performance culture. I just love the commercial link.
I love that. And I think it was Einstein that said this. You've got 2 choices. You can either think the world's against you or the world's for you. And picking up on what you said about in public speaking, people are rooting for you.
Yeah,
I think that if you've got mental health challenges at the moment or you've got anxiety, that's okay. In fact, it's normal. It's embracing. In fact, that can be a superpower. It's kind of like almost I would call surrendering. And that's difficult to do. Yeah. And when you do feel anxious before going on a stage, whoever's listening, because most people do get worried about speaking, the words you use, the way you frame and label that, change the word. It's not anxiety, it's excitement. It's excitement. You can fake it till you make it when it comes to this voice in your head. You really can. Your body does not know the difference between what is real and what's not. That's true.
Right? It doesn't. Think about dreams where you thought you were getting chased or falling off a cliff. Your body thinks it's real. It's not real. So why don't we fake it till we can make it with our positive, helpful thoughts?
Yeah.
And what we'll do is get our body feeling calmer.
'Cause I've got my affirmations on my phone. I've got some
Nice.
values on my wall and stuff like that. Do you do things like meditation? Would you recommend anything else like that?
My thing, I don't meditate that often, but I really appreciate it when I do.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got their own thing, like mental fitness thing that they like.
Yeah.
I say everyone,
Yeah.
some people do.
Yeah.
We all should.
Yeah.
Mine is getting out of nature, Chris. Mine is walking. I love nature. Walking my dog. That is when I have my best ideas. That is when I feel grounded again. And I see that as a power move. I also see a power nap as a power move.
Yeah, I love a power nap.
Right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't do that enough, but 20-minute power nap, you are going to be more productive.
Yeah, yeah.
So all this is smarter, not harder.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah. So to anyone beating themselves up because you took a walk, you're actually being really clever. Well done, you.
And before we go, what's the future looking like? What do you want to achieve the rest of your life? You've already achieved a lot. You're like speaker of the year. You got all these awards. You've done some great things, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm really proud of how far I have come, but I have got big ambitions, that is for sure. I definitely want to be speaking on massive stages around the world. I want to become a world-class, well-known female speaker because there aren't many of them.
Yeah,
certainly not many with energy.
I could see you.
Can you see that?
Doing that, yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on the route. I'm en route for that. And I want to grow 80 Growth Academy and get it in as many businesses as possible to transform not just the lives of those employees, but the commercial results. I want to prove that we can absolutely drive growth by starting with mental fitness first.
Yeah. Because then everything else falls into place, doesn't it? You get your brain and your mental fitness right, then you tend to want to then look after yourself physically and the people around you as well, don't you?
Yeah. And it's just the only missing piece that people haven't maybe necessarily understood up until now is that mental fitness does translate to high performance.
Yes.
And you look at any athlete and they prove that, you know, they're so mentally fit and in control of their mind. And we need people in business doing the same.
Anna, that went really quickly. An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.